Hello and welcome to another edition of All About Berea. I'm Chad Hembry.
And I'm Beth Myers.
Joining us in the studio, we have Mr. Robert New in here with us. And a special guest, Mr. Ronnie Terrill, has joined us for this broadcast. And we're very glad to have you here.
Yeah, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
We got several things to cover, so we're going to jump right into it. So before we get on with our interviews, let's go right into 4 things you should know.
Thank you, Chad. Okay, on 4 things you should know. There have been some different personnel changes with the City of Berea lately, as different departments are trying to get back on track. City Administrator Randy Stone announced during the City Council meeting on Tuesday that Daryl Hurt, who worked for the Berea Municipal Utilities as a GIS coordinator, his employment had been terminated. Hurt was arrested on August 25th for use of a minor under 18 in a sexual performance and promoting that sexual performance. He was also charged with possession of matter portraying sexual performance by a minor. The 42-year-old Hurt pleaded not guilty to the charges. Someone from the GIS office at the main part of the city in the municipal building has been moved to a utilities company for now to work as their GIS coordinator. Another city move is that Berea GIS coordinator Paul Schrader, who was working as the temporary head of the streets department, has resigned. Schrader stated that he resigned because of a disagreement with how certain things at the street department were to be handled. He has left now, and Randy Stone just announced Tuesday that former Berea Chief of Police Dwayne Brumley is going to be the new department head of the streets department. Schrader was a very respected member of the city Berea, known for his high ethics. He actually saved the city quite a bit of money by working as a surveyor for a lot of the road projects, trail projects, kept them from having to pay for another consultant, and actually in an unusual way helped the police with their accident reconstruction and crime reconstruction scenes. So he will be an asset that the city will miss. Cards soliciting signatures to hold a local option election were mailed this week, Jim Lucas announced at the City Council meeting on Tuesday. There have been a group of citizens working to get a wet-dry election held. This has happened, I believe the last one was a couple years ago. Lucas said this wouldn't put standalone bars in Berea, but would have alcohol sold at the restaurants and packages stores. Lucas said on Tuesday that he felt that Berea could still keep their soul, their morality, and their quaintness even with alcohol sales, but that for economic development and making the restaurants strong, this would be a necessary change in Berea. And at the last of our 4 things of Berea, with no small amount of speed, agility, and sheer determination, the Berea Municipal Utilities lineman crew took home first and second place in the recent rodeo that took place in Nicholasville on August 22nd. This was the first such rodeo for municipal companies in Kentucky, so the Berea boys discovered for the first time how well they matched up against their state counterparts. They beat larger companies like Bowling Green and other cities. The team of Sean Evans, Anthony Wilburn, and Aaron Isaacs took home the first place trophy, and the team of Adrian Isaacs, who's the electric coordinator, Joe McClure, and Dustin Barnett took home the second place. There were a few raw feelings about it, Utilities Director Ed Fortner joked, as the first place team had a lot of fun picking on the other team for their less superior performance. And that is all for 4 things about Berea.
Thank you very much, Beth. All right, let's work in reverse order here. First of all, the linemen.
There's just a few meaty things in that list, Chad?
It was neat. You could see the enthusiasm on their faces, couldn't you? I mean, they truly enjoyed it.
They're a team. They're really a team, and they work well together. I mean, that's it showed.
Very proud of them.
And it was all really in good fun, because what happened is the one who was on with electric coordinator, that would have been Dustin Barnett, actually won first place overall, but he was actually on the second place team. So it gave his coordinator, his boss, a really hard time with kind of pulling him down. So I think they had a lot of fun, and the coordinator even said, "I have apologized several times." So, but it was old school. They had to climb up the 40-foot poles. You know, now they have bucket trucks taking them up there, but they had to do it like they used to do it. They had a 175-pound dummy they had to rescue from the top. That was one of their challenges. Others were climbing up, changing a fuse, climbing back down, that type of thing. So was not only speed, it was also like proper safety protocols. You'd get deductions if you didn't, do certain things. So they actually are hoping to host it next year.
Well, I'm very proud
for the
of
second annual
I'll tell you
one.
what, Berea is probably the smallest utility company. I don't know.
They actually said it was about in the middle. There are about 30, they said, municipal companies. For this particular rodeo, they're only able to get 8. I guess it was the first time they've done rodeos like the for-profit utility companies and that kind of thing. This was the first time the municipal utilities have done it. So they're hoping next year they're going to pull in a lot more cities.
Actually, they ought to talk with tourism. That might be a good tourism attraction coming to Berea for the weekend.
Absolutely.
Really.
They were saying that they were going to bring it next year, and I said, everybody in Berea is going to just flock down to where, and that the space they have is perfect, out there by the municipal building. So I think it would be a lot of fun. So I'm hoping they can pull that off.
Beth had to step out of the studio for a second, but we'll just keep going. She'll be back momentarily. The rodeo was just really exciting. The whole concept of it, to see that they were excited about it, that they were into it, that everyone we had a full house there, right? And everyone out there just smiling because you're a little proud. It's a little bit of a pride.
I really think it's a great idea to actually set it up in Berea for a tourist attraction. I mean, I believe people would come and watch that.
I think it would be interesting. I would watch it.
I would.
I mean,
yeah.
It wouldn't do nothing but grow.
Those logging competitions are interesting to me. This would be interesting to me. I was thinking about what was there. I don't know how many individual awards they gave away, but what we won 18 of them.
18 out of 30, I think.
I think that's right. Pretty good.
Yeah, that's a pat on the back.
I can attest to these guys because last year when that storm hit and my neighbor's tree took out two poles and all the lines, and those guys are right here, and they worked from daylight to past dark getting our power back on, and then went over around the corner and started on the next thing with big floodlights. I gotta hand it to them. They were.
I agree. And the thing is, a lot of people see them riding around in town in trucks together, whatever. They don't realize when we have an emergency that they're out working. I mean, rain, snow. I mean, if it's coming down, they're still out there trying to get electric back to us.
Well, that was.
Or water too.
I think it was cold then because they were out in Carhartts. There was snow on the ground, I believe. Then, and they were out there with chainsaws and cutting stuff, and the ironic part is they ended up burying those lines, putting them underground, trenched and put them underground, and along comes the cable and telephone company, and they put the poles back in and ran them overhead. Theirs overhead.
That's a story for another day.
That's true.
I just thought it was.
It is. You're right. It's ironic is a nice way to put it. Anyway, so we're proud of them. I think it's great. It would be a good idea. We need to promote getting that here, and then we need to advertise it.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. That
would be definitely something noteworthy and different.
Definitely different.
Yeah.
Definitely different. But I think it would be interesting to watch people. You don't see them with the spurs on climbing those utility poles like you did in the old days.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, you really don't.
I didn't know they even knew how to do that anymore.
That's pretty cool. Okay, moving on. First of all, the award that was given out last night, the John G. Fee Justice Award,
Right.
was given by the Human Rights Commission.
That's right.
And it was a nice idea, I think, for that commission to come up with an award. Awards are always a good promoting idea.
It is. Actually, I remember that. I mean, it was an eerie day in Berea.
Okay, well, let's tell what it was. It was the shooting in 68, is that right?
66.
66, okay.
66, I believe it was.
And the award was given to Bob Schaefer,
Right.
representing a concerned group of citizens that collected money to pay for the legal fees for the local citizens.
Actually, they were the first Human Rights Commission that the City Fathers put together after that. Which I thought was great. I thought that was real interesting from the standpoint that it was people from out of town that come in and stirred all that up. And because I growing up, I didn't know we had a problem with anything in Berea.
Well, yeah, that's what my dad said. He grew up in Middletown, and he's like, that was just the norm.
That's right.
We didn't have issues like that.
We didn't. I mean,
at least individuals I know did, but we didn't.
We didn't see it.
Yeah, we didn't see people lining up having those problems yet.
Right.
Debates and that kind of stuff.
I tell you what, Arthur Boggs. I don't know if y'all know Arthur Boggs. He worked for Witt Jennings Center from the Harrisons. He fixed my bicycle all the time. And I was only 6 or 7 years old, but I mean, he was a good fellow. I mean, I think a lot of Arthur Boggs.
Well, Arthur worked for the school system.
That's right.
And I got to know him growing up in the school system.
Fellow. And
then I worked at Middletown Mall as a clerk, and he used to come in and tease me and give me a pretty good hard time.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, he was a delight. The next thing on the list there, what I don't even have her list now. When she took it with her, but the raise for the mayor.
The raise for the mayor. Actually, if you think how many years the mayor puts in and whatever, he's really working for minimum wage or less. And actually, I think he needs a raise to cover that. And not only that, I really think they might be other people that might consider running for mayor. If the money gets up there where they can say, I can take time away from my business or whatever, family, and get a little money because...
Make it worth the while?
Make it worthwhile. I mean, because... and actually, I think we ought to be a leader with pay-wise for the mayor, because I really believe sometime down the road, Berea needs to go to a full-time mayor. I mean, we're getting so many things going on that... I may not see it in my lifetime, but I think it will happen.
Okay, well, I'm going to argue the other side of that. I see that we already, with our form of government, we have a full-time city manager, and we pay him to do that, so the mayor doesn't have to be there full-time.
Well, I really think if we have dignitaries come in from Washington and speak at the chamber or whatever, or from Frankfurt, that they don't want the city manager there or administrator, they want the mayor there. And really, I mean, I think it's an insult if he doesn't go and meet him.
Okay. So what we're saying is maybe the happy point is somewhere in the middle, because
absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, we're only raising it $6,000. So I mean, what is it? That's $500 a month. So he's getting $1,000 now, so he's going to be getting $1,500. And it's not even going to be him. This actually goes into effect 2015 for whoever the next mayor is. And people's got to...
Sorry about that.
Well, that's okay.
I don't know who's calling, but it's from San Antonio. Maybe I should take it. Maybe I want a trip to the Alamo or something.
But to... well, I just lost my train.
I know that San Antonio derailed you, didn't it? Sorry.
People don't understand that actually to raise the salary of the mayor, you can't raise while he's in office. You've got to wait till the next election.
I didn't know that.
That's a fact. And you got a time. You got to do it before May, or by the end of May anyway, for it to be legal. Because you can't wait. So all the thing we're trying to do is just go ahead and be proactive and get it done, and not have to worry about the...
Well,
I was kind of surprised to find that the mayor only made $1,000 a month. That kind of surprised me.
That is cheap. I mean, for the hours that he puts in. I mean, meetings.
Then I got thinking about, we do have a full-time city administrator on the payroll, and so... I can kind of see him not making as much. I don't know how much Randy Stone makes. But
would you like to know?
Wrapping my head around
how much money Randy Stone makes?
Yeah, I might be interested in a job like that.
$108,000.
I'm definitely interested.
Now that's a pretty good salary. Now I will say this: looking at the League of Cities survey for salaries, he's way ahead of the pack. I mean, he's out in La La Land.
Okay, and then if you take his salary and you add the mayor's salary to it, then you get one round figure that kind of represents what the top leadership is there. And that's why I'm still not.
Yeah, but you got to remember,
look, I'm not passing the smell test or anything like you were teaching us.
I understand. I understand.
But I'm not feeling you either.
Well, I understand that too. But the thing is, I mean, really, whoever wants to be mayor needs to be paid for it.
Yeah.
Now, I've heard the mayor say that he was being paid, or he was a figurehead. Well, to me, $12,000 is a figurehead. Yeah. Now, $18,000 is more.
Now, I will throw you this bone that $14,000 would be the average in the state, and we're only paying $12,000, so we're already below average. So then, the argument that could be brought up, and I even played devil's advocate last night in the work session, and I said, well, I think we're an above average city.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, that's
so if you take the mayor's salary and the city administrator's salary, and you add the two together, then you take other comparable cities to Berea, and you do the same thing,
we would be way ahead.
That's right.
If because we're already, So that's part of my concern about raising. It seems like, and I know past councils dealt with that. Okay, so I'm not going to argue on that. Why is the city administrator this? Why is the mayor that? Maybe the city administrator would have been a little lower, the mayor would have been a little higher. I don't know. Maybe that would have happened.
I know a little history about that. I really know a little history about that because actually, Randy was given. He got the city clerk's title. So he was getting the pay for the city clerks on top of his administrative. So that's where it got so high, of course.
And then you don't back down. Yeah.
That's right. You don't back down.
Yeah. And let's give Virgil a little credit there. He's been preaching on this for 2 years now, that salaries are where the money goes, and those things don't go away unless you make really hard decisions.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
Now, I tell you what, we've gone through this bad time, economic turndown, whatever. And I think ever since I've been on the council, it's always been a 2% raise every year. We've never deviated from that. But somewhere you got to have a cap. Every job is worth only so much money. And we've got one of these days realize that. In fact, one time, I even proposed one time that we cut off raises at a certain level, like $60,000. Anybody above $60,000, we didn't give them a raise just to try to.
Well, I can tell you in the private sector during the downturn, we didn't get raises.
That's right.
At all, not even 2%.
Well, a lot of nonprofits, one traditional way of doing it with not-for-profits, and maybe government could do this as well, is that you stop getting your raise, but you still might get your merit of 2%, but instead of giving that onto your salary, they just write you a check. Here's 2% of your salary, it's your bonus.
So it's a one-time.
It's a one, but as long as you're making your merit, we're going to give you that.
The only thing in the economic turn, though, we did have zero inflation, so therefore, I mean, really, you want the merit raise? They are nothing there to.
I understand. Yeah, you're saying cost of living,
right?
Yeah.
But I do think we've got a lot of people at a lower level making very less money, that surviving, that we need to actually try to bring up more when the people at the higher level are there.
Did all the employees get 2% raises?
No, that's another thing. It's based on the supervisors, where he likes you or don't like you. And I don't like that, because you can have a good worker, but the supervisor doesn't like him and won't give him anything. I mentioned it. I brought that up before too. That actually we have to just call it a cost of living raise to everybody, make sure everybody got it.
Because I know, like where I work, all the hourly guys that work in the shop, they all get just a standard, like a 2% raise at cost of living, 3%, whatever, every year. Salaried people may not. You may or you may not get it. And the managers don't get raises, they get bonuses once you get to a certain level. And so anyway, my concern is these guys that just won this award, that do fantastic work out in the rain and the snow, like we were talking about. They may not have gotten the 2% raise during the downturn, while the city administrator who makes $108,000 was getting a 2% raise. So that was the question I was asking. Did those guys that was actually out there in the miserable weather and doing all that work get their 2% raises?
I can tell you that. And actually, unless we asked to see a sheet of salaries, we don't get it. Now, I've got a couple laying at the house, believe it or not. I mean, just because I'd like to know what's going on. I mean, I'm nosy. I'm an old systems analyst. I like to know what's going on. I mean, that's from the standpoint. So that's the reason I asked for it, because I wanted to check and look. Especially, I got one before the last 2% and one after. So sort of compared who was getting what. But I didn't find any discrepancies. I want to point that out too.
But I don't know. I'm just that's my philosophy is those guys should get theirs first before the guys at the top do.
Oh, I agree. I fully agree with that. I mean that.
So I guess I'm in between you two somewhere.
Somewhere in between.
Not really.
But
okay, look. Here's the thing. I don't know how to argue this much more than. I mean, I'm going to probably stick to my point that I just don't. Because if you combine it, I don't get it that it needs to be raised. I understand what you're talking about, and I also understand that it makes it more appetizing for people to want to run for the position. And I understand that it opens the door to more people. But, traditionally, Berea's mayor has been a servant's position that you knew you weren't going to make a living at it. That was kind of the given. And the same way with the council people. Go on, we're on the low end of that too, all right? And we're not. We're not asking for anything.
All right, we're not asking for anything. I'll tell you right now, I pay more for diesel fuel running around looking at things in town than I make. Now that's true. I mean and I'll admit that, but I don't care. But I do think that the mayor, he's right up. You got to respect his position, and I think we've got to pay him for that position too. I mean,
but I will say this: when somebody runs for mayor, they should do their homework and know what they're getting into before they decide to run. And the fact whether they make $1,000 or $1,500 a month,
is immature.
Their job is going to dictate whether they can get away from their work to meet with dignitaries.
Oh, I agree.
So you've got to have that flexibility regardless of the salary going in.
I really think people that run for office don't even think about the salaries. I really do. I don't even think a lot of them know what the salary is till they get in there or whatever. I believe that, but I don't know that either.
All right. Well, we'll let that one go. We're just bouncing around in circles. Right. And the next thing, let's talk about Jeanette Rowlett coming up, director of the Kentucky Guild of Artisans. She was actually on the radio show promoting the crafts fair, so she's been on this show, and she was my 6th grade teacher. So she calls me one of hers, and I'm glad to be one of hers.
Right.
All right. But she has brought forth a idea to the city of Berea, wanting some money, and what they're ultimately going to be doing is presenting classes that will be a continuation of the
Learn shops. Only it's not.
It's a continuation on that idea, because they're going to do it year round, right? It'll be an extended.
But now you got to remember, you got the learn shops is for the hobbyist. The classes Jeanette's going to have is actually training new artists that want to become a basket maker.
Well, let's say that you have been working your whole career in retail and you're getting near retirement, and if you're like most people, you're going to have to do something when you're retired.
That's right. That's a fact.
So you're thinking, I have always whittled and filled with wood. I'd like to go into wood carving or something, but where can I learn that trade? Well, that's what this would be for. It would train that person with the encouragement that they would stay here and do their trade.
Actually, it really fits in with the vision. I mean, from the standpoint, we're going to a trip to look at incubators. Now, I've always been against the incubators, but I've changed my opinion with Jeanette from the standpoint that with her training new artists, that we should provide an incubator for the good artist, and we definitely would have to have some kind of committee or something that says this one qualifies, because everybody I don't think would qualify to go into an incubator and fill some of these empty buildings we got in Old Town and Church of Weavers. I mean, it's put them up there. I mean, because if you look, Old Town is drying up. We've got to have some new and young talent people coming in, and I think this is the way to get there. I think it's maybe the most important thing we work on this year is debating on this $20,000 that Jeanette needs to finish so she can start taking the classes. I mean, I'm for it. I really am, because I can just envision that we fill those empty spots in Old Town.
Well, the argument, as you know, that's being brought up against it is that you have to set a precedent. Well, and then the mayor argued that you don't have to have a precedent.
You can say yes or no.
You say yes or no. I understand both. I'm kind of meeting in the middle.
No,
there.
I understand.
And what I'm saying is that the guild has been here since 1962,
maybe earlier than that.
Because the first fair was like 68 or something. Is that correct?
Yeah, right.
Somewhere in that area. Then they were here pretty much continuously up until they even moved into a building that the city owned, right? So that relationship was established.
Let me give you a little history of it. And the guild had their fair at Indian Fort Theater, and it had huge crowds.
Oh, there used to be 10,000, 15,000 people coming to.
I've seen them backed up to almost Moore's store there on Christmas Ridge.
In the heyday, yeah.
In the heyday. But as time went along, and they got involved with the city furnished them a building, and next thing you know, the city had talked them into changing from Indian Fort Theater and brought them into the park in Jefferson Street.
To keep them in town, yeah.
To keep them in town. Well, the people don't like that. They want to walk through the woods and stuff. Now, the guild went down. And actually, they ended up moving out of town.
Well, they moved the fair.
They moved. I think they actually moved to London, their headquarters and stuff. But they moved back with Jeanette, I believe.
Yeah, they tried the fair in Bowling Green. That didn't work very well.
But
they had support there. Don't get me wrong, like Fruit of the Loom and stuff support them. But it just they didn't have the numbers there either. So coming back was.
But people really want to walk through the woods at Indian Fort Theater.
I understand that.
Well, it was. They had that larger parking area, so it wasn't congested, and driving through town was horrible when it was down here. So not only did it affect the people trying to go to the fair when it was downtown, but it affected the people that live here that wanted to go to Walmart to buy a gallon of milk.
True.
No, I think we can get over it for the Spoonbread Festival, because that's the town. That's a town event. Right. But you're right. When it came to doing all crafts fairs, trying to cram all that into the same, that became almost too much. I think
it's a difference when you do it once a year, and when you do it 4 times a year or whatever. That gets to be much, and people are not as willing to.
But let me. I had some meetings with Brubeck College lawyer and the new associate vice president up here, and they've got a plan for Indian Fort Theater. And my suggestion was to them that actually what they need to do is actually come before city council and tourism and explain everything that's going to go on at Indian Fort Theater and how. Because I think we need to make sure our plan matches up with their plan for everybody. Because I really like. I'm going to go sideways a little.
Yeah, I'm going to have to reel you back in a minute, because we're almost off subject.
We're going to be off subject, because really, I think it's time for us actually getting the drama going back at Indian Fort Theater. I want to put a plug in for that, because we've got
You want to try to convince me to put drama? You know you're
I know, but I want you to talk about it. I mean, because
you want to convince Bob. You know, he'll be the one.
Bob, but the thing is, we've got to have something to pull people from the Artisan Center into Berea.
Yeah.
And what we've been doing in the past not working, and we've got to go back.
Yeah, but you know, it's kind of like it's that if you build it, they'll come thing. It doesn't always work.
That's true.
And so the Artisan Center's out there, and yeah, people stopping off the interstate and going to that, but to me, the reason they're not coming downtown is it's just not worth it to them. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like what you were saying. Old Town is kind of drying up.
There's nothing there.
Yeah, it's not worth that extra drive to come into town to go to 2 or 3 shops that may be open, may not be open,
right,
depending on how the person's feeling that day. You know.
I drop it on Berea College all the time. I say, boy, we need to put a zip line somewhere out there in the forest. I mean, really. And you talk about people be lined up. I mean, they really would be lined up.
Huge thing.
I mean, it is. But we've got to do stuff like that to bring people in. I even want a history of Berea, a museum. I'd like to put that in a train station down here, a history of Berea and Berea College and the railroad down here, because I think people would come in to look at a museum to see how Berea was formed and all that good stuff.
Okay, so I'm going to throw some questions out here because I'm out of the loop, and so the listeners may be out of the loop on some of this. What's the $20,000 going for?
It has helped to provide the space and services to put on these classes because
where are the classes going to be?
They own a building on Broadway. The guild already owns the building. Okay, the building's
is that
there.
the big long building?
It's the first building on the right as you go down the hill.
Okay.
All right, you pass the Redford's Funeral Home, and then the next building.
Is that a small little?
No, it's actually it's like two.
Okay.
It's 2 stories on one side.
Right.
And one
Actually, Jeanette's got the upstairs framed. It's just a matter of they need drywall and electric and all that stuff run to start teaching classes.
So
next question. Why isn't our extra 3% we're paying at McDonald's and Dinner Bell going to that?
Because they've already turned her down.
That's right. And
she went to them and they turned her down.
The reason they turned her down was the fact they didn't feel like they needed to put that tourism money into a building. Now, here's the thing. We have set a precedent by the library. The city gave the library $50,000 when they come to Berea to be on Chestnut Street. That's what the mayor told us last night, and that's correct. It was $50,000. But it's so important for Jeanette, for those classes, that I don't care where you're worried about it or whatever. I think we've got to spend that $20,000 and get those artists, because every day there's business closing in Old Town.
So this extra 3% brings in quite a bit of money every year.
About $1 million too.
And they're supposed to spend it on marketing is what the main
tourist things.
Okay, I can tell you, having a billboard at the Tennessee and Kentucky state line an hour and a half away. By the time, if somebody sees that billboard an hour and a half later, they're not going to think, oh, that's that place I saw the billboard.
I can announce that billboard's not there anymore. I think they've done away with it.
Oh, have they?
I believe I heard that, Bob.
I can tell you 2 months ago it was there.
I heard it about last month.
Now, the billboard may be there, but maybe they're not. Because I know that they leave that stuff up until somebody else rents it. So that could be. I've always thought that was the biggest waste of money.
I think everybody from Berea that's seen it felt the same. The tourism.
I mean, those things aren't cheap either.
That's right.
You know, they're about $1,000 a month.
Well, what about the one behind the Holiday Hotel? Have you noticed it? Yeah, the old Holiday Inn out there coming up to 76. That's only $8,400 a year.
Okay,
I'm
reeling everybody back in. Let's talk about $20,000. Look, my argument is that we're not putting it into a building; we're putting it into a service and a organization that we already have a relationship established with.
My argument
just
is,
like
won't it benefit tourism as well?
Yes,
and they have all this money. And the more people that come for these classes, they're going to eat at McDonald's and Dinner Bell and pay the 3%, extra 3% as well.
Right. But Bob, let me say this. Everybody's arguing about it, and we could talk about this for 6 months and nothing get done. It's time.
They need it.
They need it now.
If they're going to do it, they need it.
And actually, they're working a deal out with tourism for their learn shops at Christmas or whatever. They're going to use their space.
They're going to work together.
They are going to work, and this is the first, I believe.
And I don't think
Jeanette, I'd charge tourism out the butt.
But tourism already gives them money every year. They give them money for
the advertisement,
for the fairs.
Right.
They give them advertising money.
But tourism got all this money that's coming in, and they're probably sitting on 5 years worth of money.
Let me say this. What I'm hearing out in the community is that if we ended up buying some property on Chestnut Street that has been proposed or whatever, that somebody may start a referendum to repeal that 3% restaurant tax. Now, that's a fact. I mean, because they think that it's not being spent the way it should be, and we need to do something. And I think this is the first step. If we get the classes for Jeanette, and we get incubators coming out, and tourism paying for the incubators, and rent for some guidelines. I don't know what the guidelines are, but somebody's got to set those up. That we'll see more people come in because they want to see working artists. They don't want to see their stuff. They want to actually see them making it.
I mean, that's the big draw. That's
you can buy stuff anywhere.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
That's not. Yeah.
I can go to the Amish store and buy stuff made in China. So, and it looks Amish.
Yeah.
But
no.
I mean, I'm not saying about this Amish store here.
I know in general though.
Yeah.
Go to Gatlinburg because about 80% of the stuff you're going to buy was not made
now,
there.
I don't want Berea to become another Gatlinburg. I mean, I'll just.
Well, okay. There's two sides to Gatlinburg. That craft loot would be phenomenal. That would be phenomenal. It really would.
Okay, and look at that though. That thing is crowded. I mean, it's packed. People drive, and you can't walk from place to place. You've got to drive 5 miles between.
Bob, you haven't heard the West family's vision of Churchill Weavers, what they want to do up there.
No, but he's going to come on the show. I'm getting him in here.
Okay, because you really want to hear that, because I mean it's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that you want to visit. Now, everybody's scared in Old Town that's going to pull away, but there's enough for everybody. And Churchill's name, having it, that's a draw in the first place, because they are going to have some rooms set up.
I'll just go on record saying I'm very critical of tourism here and the way we do, but it's kind of like it's the thing that nobody wants to touch, and they really do. Because I know when that Schumann guy, that consultant, and I won't even get on that, but when he was here, his report, the initial report, he said that we are not getting the bang for our buck from tourism, and I think that's what killed his program. When he said that, tourism is like the sacred cow in Berea, and when he said we're putting more money into it than what we're getting out of it.
Let me say this: I was at a tourism meeting a month ago, and the best thing come out of it was they were talking about buying a piece of property on Chestnut Street, that they were actually going to come out with a plan. They have never had a plan. I mean, and it shows. No, it really shows. And they're actually supposed to be working to put a plan together. Now, this was 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we still haven't heard about a first meeting to talk about a plan. But I think that's the best thing I've heard for the tourism is actually a plan on what they want to do. And if they're going to do a plan, I hope they have Jeanette there and her feeder and the West family and all that, because that's our future.
Well, guys, I appreciate you coming in and talking about these things, and I am going to continue to support Jeanette. I would love to see tourism give her money. I really would. But if it doesn't happen, I want to see those programs continue, because I do believe in the programs that they're committing to, because the Learn Shops are working. So by this being a step in the right direction beyond those Learn Shops, It's great.
My whole thing is you've got tourism and you've got the guild and they don't always kind of like Berea College in the city.
Yeah.
Not always working together.
Well, but remember, the Guild is supposed to represent the very best of Kentucky, and that is something that Berea is supposed to be known for.
I'm seeing a change amidst. I mean, I really think with the new president of Berea College, he is wanting to work with the city.
I like him very much. And we're going to have him on here, too.
And I tell you what, I really think I want to see the Arts Council, I want to see the tourism, I want to see the Guild, and I want to see the West family all work together, because if they work together, you can't stop them.
Yeah.
And I just think that that's something that in the past we've not had, which, they're all off doing their own little thing, and that's why none of it is really working. It's really not clicking because they're not running on all cylinders.
And I tell you what, I'm going to say it to my people, and there's been jealousy, I believe, between. I mean, that's the fact. But I want to tell you, Chad, we need to come back and have more conversations. I mean, because that Schumer report, one of the biggest things was buying local. Now, I can go off on buying local because of our health insurance coming out of the...
Well, we'll get you back in here. We're about out of time today, okay? Well, I want to thank Councilman Ronnie Terrill for being here with us, and Bob New, thanks for being back. We're going to take a quick break and get Beth back in here and finish up on this week's news and calendar of events. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. All right, you're listening to All About Berea. This is Chad Hembry. We'll be right back after these messages.
Randy, maybe.
Hello and welcome back. You're listening to All About Berea. I'm Chad Hembry, and rejoining us now is Miss Beth Myers. Thanks for getting back in here. We did lose Ronnie Terrill. He had to run on to other things, but Bob
heard you guys had an interesting interview, though.
We did. It was a very interesting talk. And actually,
Chad is fearless. He brings everybody on the show. It's great.
He and I don't agree on several things, and then we agree on a few things, and we seem to be able to work that out okay. I don't know, as a new member I've always said this, when you're a new member of a body like the council, that first year you're learning, and you hate to overstep it because you don't know the precedent of why those decisions were made to put there, so you don't want to put your foot in your mouth. But then in the same boat, you're kind of new blood, and you see things and you think, well, did they see it this way, or am I the only one that feels this way?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of group dynamics at play where you're trying to feel your way through, because you don't want to come in all guns busting. I mean, when we flipped the council that time, and I think Troy and Ronnie and Jerry came in, they came in very aggressively, and I think partly sabotaged some of their aims because of that. You're not going to get people on your side doing that. So you do have to kind of walk the line.
Well, speaking of walking the line, you actually have a little rant or essay that you've put together for us.
I do. This is my first one.
This
is
your first one for the show, so we're gonna give you the mic.
Well, I was attended the Berea City Council meeting, and you guys decided to pretty much put all the hot button issues of Berea on the agenda, it seemed like. And they were doing a 45th anniversary of the shooting that took place in 1968. The Berea Human Rights Commission had established an award called the John G. Fee Justice Award that they're giving to the citizens concerned. For those of you who know your Berea history, this is the group that organized after the shooting to raise funds to defend the young black men who were involved, who were going to trial, and then also to kind of promote keep this kind of thing from happening again. And I was really pleased with that. I felt like it was a really good role for the Human Rights Commission. I felt like so much of what they'd done seemed to be driving in the sole direction of getting a fairness ordinance, and I'd been hoping they would kind of branch out a little more. So I was happy to see this. Now, I don't know if this was by design or not, but when I walked into the city council meeting then and saw all the blue shirts of the Bereans for Fairness wear, I was really disheartened because to me, this has been a big push since the beginning to co-op or tag on the fairness battle with the racial battle, or the kind of the battles of the past that Berea has been known for in fighting for racial equality, Berea College. And I felt like that's always been kind of this trying to tag that on and be seen as very much in the aims of Berea with that. I don't agree with this as a political strategy, and I don't agree with it just on the level of kind of right thinking. Last night really should have been about just what it should have been about. When they pull things like that, where they're doing something else, like celebrating the first year anniversary of the Human Rights Commission, or they're celebrating the 45th anniversary of the shooting, they tend to always then put the fairness ordinance on there. They stick it on somehow in their language until it becomes like everybody in the audience is like, okay, now we know why they've done it. So basically, not only are they firmly getting the Human Rights Commission completely embedded with the fairness people, they're also getting to the place where anything they do, people are going to be starting to say, okay, I wonder how they're going to put the fairness, like they must be doing this because this is another angle for fairness. And you can't disagree with that, because in some ways that's really how it seems to me, that all their actions are driving toward that thing. Because of this, they're really, all these people they're trying to reach with the letters to the editor, with all the activity they're taking politically, I think is actually entrenching the other side in their position. People don't like to be preached to. They don't like people to basically call them, like that they're bad people because they have a certain faith. So by doing that, I think they're actually alienating the other side even more. And by kind of tagging alongside the anti-discrimination, what you're doing now is saying, okay, if somebody's against fairness, then they're also against racial harmony. And that's a bugaboo too. And personally, for me, with my family, I'm very sensitive about this too, because I'm actually personally very strongly for gay rights. I have been ever since I was a child, but I'm the sole member of my family who is. My parents, when it came up into the Constitution of Mississippi, the marriage amendment, they voted against it, just like Kentucky did. They struggle with their faith and their religion, and it's a conversation we can have, but it's a conversation we both realize we're on the other side, and we try to be respectful. But they moved to Mississippi to fight for civil rights. So I'm very sensitive on this issue, because I will go to the mat with anybody and say that my parents are really good people, and I'm not going to throw them into some kind of discrimination category because they're struggling with the homosexuality issue in their religion and how they feel about that. So I'm really, once again, almost kind of felt like I got fooled again when I walked into that city council meeting, because I was really hoping it would just be about that. Now, I will say, I don't know if that was by design. The Bereans for Fairness might have just heard that this is what the Human Rights Commission was doing and decided to jump on it. So I'm not clear on that. So I really do want to honor what they did with the 45th anniversary. And it was very moving to have Loyal Jones and Bob Schaefer and the people who were there, kind of Carolyn Miller. I really appreciated that. So I don't want to take away from that moment. That was an important ceremony, and I appreciated it. But I do, I want them to relax a little bit and dial it down, because I'm starting to feel like now I can't trust. They're co-opting so much of the racial issues with their own issue that it's hard to even support one, because you feel like you're getting pulled into the other.
So you're saying that that you feel like your event was shanghaied. The sincerity of the moment of what it was about was it
felt disingenuous. It felt like, okay, is this recognition done so that they can talk people into approving the fairness ordinance? Or, because in my opinion, it should have just been about what it should have been about.
See, I agree with you 100% on that, because that's the exact same way I felt last night when I did it. I thought, oh, that's a pretty cool thing. I never even knew that event had happened in Berea and the history of it and all that. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. And then the next thing I know, it's turning into, kind of like a Washington, D.C. photo op. or something, where the president flies out to some hurricane place and they have to, stop all the rescue efforts and everything so his motorcade could come through. And that's the kind of the way I felt about it. It's like here was this thing that could have been a very nice presentation and the annual award thing that they're going to do. That was, kind of cool, but then, then it got
then
back
you
to
find
the same
yourself
old,
wondering what the agenda is, and I didn't want political agendas there last night.
No.
I didn't. We got enough of those.
Okay, I see. I didn't quite get so overwhelmed that way as you all, the way you see. I understand the way you saw it now, and it makes sense.
And there's a lot of people there who didn't have the blue shirts on.
Well,
so, let's say, like I said, I don't want to say that this event wasn't meaningful because it still was.
I looked out and I didn't see the shirts so much because I saw people's faces, people I like and I know that are my fellow actors or fellow business people, people that I see all the time. And when I looked out there, that's what I was paying attention to. Why are so many people here? Because I had read the agenda, but then it didn't soak into me that's why they were there. So I was just happy the room was full.
But see, that's you, and your head is always in that space. You always see that. Take it from me,
I understand.
From just someone in the community.
He's not saying my head's in the clouds, by the way. What he means is I see these people.
You see things different than I do or Ronnie Terrill does.
I completely understand what you're all talking about.
And the minute you walk through that door and you see half the room are those T-shirts, and you're thinking, oh no, what's going to happen here? And so immediately you're kind of turned off. I quit wearing. I used to always wear, for some reason, I'll always wear a blue shirt on Tuesday. I don't know why. It just happened that way. And I quit wearing blue shirts on Tuesday because friends of mine were making fun of me.
Pop's got no shirt Tuesdays now.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's why
Tuesday.
This is a very complicated issue. I mean, I feel like it's been simplified. It's very complicated. But what they want to do is, okay, either you're for gay rights, you're for the fair and or you're the other. And for me, it's been strange to be, quote, the liberal in the community, but then be shoved into the other side because I have a lot of questions about the fairness ordinance, the ordinance itself. And like I said, my parents never want me to watch another ABC after school special because I had a very change of life moment at 13 when I saw an after school special about a young gay man struggling with his homosexuality, and I saw what he went through. And ever since then, I've been very much, about gay rights. So my parents, unfortunately, figured they probably should never let me watch that sort of thing on television. But this is a tough issue. This has complications that they did not. It was different when they faced the racial problem. We cannot throw all this into one big pile. Yeah. And by not recognizing those differences, by not recognizing that this needs to be faced in a different way with a different set of kind of strategies, I think the community is continuing to be very polarized. And that's very unfortunate to me because I don't think people are as far apart as they have become, because people can support rights for a group that they don't necessarily think is doing the right thing. But this has been a very aggressive campaign. And to me, it's very... I don't agree with the strategies, and I don't always agree with the goals, and I wish there could be, I don't know, a little more recognition that you just can't run this the same way you have run the political agenda back in the 60s.
But we kind of see that, Beth, in Berea as a snapshot of the entire, what's going on in the entire country, where there is a polarization now. It's kind of like you're either with me 100% or you're scum.
Exactly.
And it's whatever...
Almost a demonization,
whatever
really.
The person's agenda is, if you're not 100% with them, then, then they demonize you. And it doesn't matter in Berea whether it's the upcoming wet, dry vote, because we're going to see, those two sides. And then there's the whole fairness thing, which I was opposed to the fairness thing in Berea for the simple fact of I think it's silly to do it city by city. It's just so,
Yeah, I agree.
and
I don't like the local enforcement.
The state law is going to trump it anyway. And my whole thing is, why are you spending this time and effort and resources fighting it at the state level instead of these little cities where if somebody comes and does have a grievance, what are they going to do?
Well, and that was my complaint, that anything we do here, will it have teeth?
Well, and frankly, we've heard from the other cities who have had fairness ordinances. These cases don't go anywhere. I mean, I think they've had one in Lexington.
And if you're truly want fairness for everyone, then you're saying, well, okay, Mount Vernon, we want fairness for Berea people, but not for you. Mm-hmm. That's, to me, that's the way. Fight it at the state level.
Yeah, and I think even the polarization, it's very much a kind of a sink or swim political strategy, right? It's like you're all in or you're all out, and it's kind of a shoot for the moon. But in that, when you fall and you don't hit the moon, then you crash. And I just think it's very unfortunate that we've gotten into that kind of polarization, and it's been driven by the two-party system. It's almost like how Chevy and Ford's tried to get us split up on who likes which truck. It's a marketing campaign. And I hope in the history books it'll be recorded as, that polarization that eventually, people, it didn't work, so we eventually get back to, a more conversational, middle of the ground way to go. But, so, and I don't know where this thing is going to go. The other side has been kind of quiet on fairness. And I think everybody's biding their time, but, I was just, when I walked in there, I was kind of like, I wish I didn't have this bother in my head when I walked in this room for this anniversary. I wish I didn't have this back here going, is this about fairness and not about the anniversary? So
I had a constituent call me when I was running for office, and he said, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to vote for you. And I said, well, why not? What's going on? I said, just tell me. I said, I don't care. I mean, I care in the sense, but it's not going to change.
You're not going to go off or be furious or something, right?
I said, what's the deal? And he said, well, I think that the whole fairness issue is just like back when we had slaves, and I just think that that's how bad they're treated. And he sincerely felt that way, and he sincerely believed it. I'm sorry, I don't see it the same. I see there's problems, but I just don't see it the same.
Right. Well, and we are by treating every civil rights issue exactly the same way, we're making a mistake. We are. You can't avoid the complications. Mm-hmm. Marketing slogan, it works right to have that one PowerPoint, but we need to get past that. We need to get past the marketing campaigns, and start really trying to delve into the real complications of these issues.
Well, I'll tell you the Bob New theory on how to get rid of racism or whatever, and that's to do away with all these laws. And if somebody puts a sign up that says a certain race or a certain sexual orientation or whatever can't come in their restaurant, I kind of think at this point in time in our history that the market will bear it out. I won't
go.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's a very libertarian attitude, right? Yeah. It's like let's people.
Yeah, that's probably the libertarian in me.
The first person that puts up a sign that says, you're not welcome. They might as well put a sign, Chad's not welcome, because I won't go.
But my hope comes from those kinds of groundswell initiatives. It doesn't come from the political realm. I mean, I heard on NPR where they had a pro-choice and a pro-life who will never, ever agree on the issue, but they have conversations about it and they talk about it. And they said the one thing you should do, that they say adamantly when you're really trying to have a dialogue, is you tell the other person what you respect about whether it be their position or the group that works for something, and then you tell them what you think is the greatest weakness about your own position and your own cause, and then the other person does the same back to you, and that kind of just transforms the whole issue. And that's where I find that hope, is that type of thing, people working together.
Well, thank you, Beth. I appreciate you thinking about that and putting that together for us. All right, we're going to have to wrap things up, so it's time to move into our calendar of events. It's actually pretty full, isn't it?
You know what happened? Our printer made a mistake on the last paper, and they printed the church page twice.
So that's why I thought it was full.
No, this was last week when we didn't actually have a show. Thing is, I didn't hear from anybody. So that's another question I'm kind of contemplating. Is our calendar of events passé, or do people still look at them? So anyway, that's a thought. But I will do this. That's just my own thought.
The table and I thought you had a pretty good list.
I do have a good list. Sorry, that was off the topic. Yeah. That'll be for a research project for me later on in media. Calendar of events. All right. So this weekend, and in honor of Chad and Letha, I'm going to say that there is going to be a Sleeping Beauty Kids at Trinity PCA Church in Richmond that the Spotlight Acting School is going to be doing. Since they've taken over that program, this is going to be the first show since the very untimely and sad death of Kathy J.R. Bettler, so they're dedicating it in her memory. So that's going to be a Friday show at 7 p.m., a Saturday, Sunday show at 2. Tickets are $5. 3 and under get in free. So everybody come out and support them with their news. It's bring their kids. Lots of kids in the show. Very family friendly. And on September 7th, which is Saturday, there's going to be an American Legion Jamboree from 11 to 4 in the Midway Furniture Store on US 25. Food, bluegrass, country music, clogging, line dancing, open mic, all musicians welcome. Christy Miller is going to sing from 12 to 1, no alcohol. So that you want to call James Miller at 582-7421 if you have any questions. Oh, and I should mention that this will be passed by the time the show airs, but our own Chad Hembry is going to be singing at a homecoming at Middletown Baptist Church on Thursday night this week, right? So let's see what else we got going on here.
No, actually, that's Sunday morning.
Oh, is that Sunday morning?
Yeah,
okay,
Sunday morning.
They sent the wrong one to me. All right. Okay, and on Sunday, there is going to be the second Sunday's concert at the Episcopal Church of Our Savior in Richmond. This is a session they always do. Too Many Drummers is performing at 2 p.m., Grill and Potluck at 12:30. They ask people to bring a non-perishable food donation and or $5. On September 10th, the Berea Arts Council will be starting 2 classes. There's going to be an intermediate watercolor class. That's going to be on Tuesday nights from 6 to 8 p.m. and a calligraphy class that's going to be on Thursday evenings from 6 to 8 p.m. That one starts on September 12th. They're both taught by local artist Robert Berger. On September 11th, there's going to be a community forum called Get Covered Kentucky at 6 p.m. in the library. Aaron Hoban presents. This is a project to educate Kentuckians about the Affordable Care Act and what all that will bring. So for those people who are curious about that, go to the library on the 11th. And that takes us to the end. Oh, let me do one more thing. There's going to be on September 12th another convo at Berea College, the Brubeck Brothers Quartet at 8 o'clock. That'll be next Friday night at Phelps Stokes Auditorium. They play jazz, funk, and blues for those who would like to go out. And, of course, all the convos at Berea College are free to the public.
Yes, I had a really nice invitation from President Ross to come to the first convo, and it did not line up as something we could do, but I did appreciate that. And the fact that this president is reaching out to the city and the community.
This is a very different regime.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It is a new day.
Well, and I think the title of his talk was Commitments and Community.
Yeah.
Really sum it up for him. And I should actually say that was a mistake. It's actually on Thursday night, the Brubeck Brothers Quartet concert, and that's a Stevenson Memorial concert, a fun they got. But yeah, I've met with him a couple times. He kind of stays periodically in touch with me as the editor of the local newspaper. I often got invited to have lemonade and cookies at the house and see his wife Lori's monarch butterfly flowers she has out there, and it's very much a man of the community.
Well, and I do want to plug that you wrote a pretty good article on the council in this week's paper. Everyone needs to get a copy and read that. And I will be writing a letter to respond, but I won't do it here on the radio.
Because he just can't stand that darn editor who's always fussing about something.
We're so polarized, I can't be in the same room.
This is actually my secret identity. Chad does not know yet that I'm actually the editor of the Berea Citizen.
Anyway, thank you very much for listening. You've been listening to All About Berea, sponsored by the Berea Citizen and BreaOnline.com. I want to thank Beth Myers, Bob New, and Ronnie Terrill for being on the show with
All
me.
About Berea
I'm Chad Hembry.
is
Join
brought
us
to you
next
by
week for more
Good
Berea
Impressions
news.
Design. For screen printing, trophies, plaques, signs, and more, check out Good Impressions' full line of services, and make a good impression with your business today. On the web at goodimpressionsdesign.com. By the Berea Citizen. Serving the community since 1899, this Berea icon continues to produce award-winning news stories and features. Pick up your copy today, or sign up for a weekly subscription by calling 859-986-0959. By BreaOnline.com. Constantly updated, this site is the most up-to-date place to find what's going on in Berea. Loaded with videos, shows, stories, articles, and a full calendar of events, this site has been the place to go on the web for Bereans since 1995. The name says it all, it's Berea Online. The opinions expressed on All About Berea are not those of BreaOnline.com, the Berea Citizen, nor any other sponsor. All About Berea is a production of Tech Talk Studios, and recorded weekly in Berea, Kentucky, in partnership with the Creative Tech Media Group and BreaOnline.com. All About Berea is co-produced by Rhonda McIntyre, co-produced and directed by Chad Hembry, and finally, our senior news editor is Beth Myers. If you would like to participate in All About Berea, or simply have a suggestion, we would love to hear from you. Just go to BreaOnline.com and click on All About Berea at the top of the page. For sponsorship opportunities, contact the Creative Tech Media Group at creativetechmedia.com or phone 859-626-6054. From all of us here at Tech Talk Studios, and on behalf of the cast and crew of All About Berea, thanks for listening.